What if I told you that you could create a same game parlay on the NFL with a 100% hit rate that also have a great matchup this weekend? Would you bet it? Well, today, boys, I'm going to take you through my process on how you can make that happen so you can create these types of same game parlays for yourself. If that sounds interesting, then let's go. So we're jumping into Outlier. If you did not know, Outlier is my go-to tool for doing all of my research for my player props. It's also essential if you're going to use it for this particular strategy. So if you're interested in checking it out live, I've got a 7-day free trial in the video description below. Check it out. You will not be disappointed. So we've got Outlier. The second thing that we need is a sports book. And I'm going to be using this. Sportsbet, FanDuel in the US is very similar. Got very similar markets as well. We'll be playing a lot of alt lines. Now, on Outlier, first we need to get our filters done correctly. The first thing, we look at propositions, which are the different types of props. I'm looking at passing touchdowns, passing yards, receiving yards, receptions, rushing yards. I think they're the main ones that I'm looking at. Yep, check. The next thing we're looking to do is we're only betting over plays. And the most important part is probably around these odds. I've gone minus 500 to minus 140. If you're getting odds better than minus 140, you're probably best to just play it as a straight bet. And then I've clicked this button here, which is essential to show alternate lines. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to go through it game by game. We're going to find the players who have a great matchup, but also have a 100% hit rate this season on the props that we're looking at. We'll do it game by game, depending on how many we get. We'll either have one large parlay or we'll have multiple same game parlays, depending on what the odds are that we get from each game. But we'll build it all together. So we're looking at the Vikings versus the Packers first. So ultimately what I've done is I've filtered by the 2024 hit rate, meaning all of these players and their props have a 100% hit rate so far this season in 2024. 3 games. Not a massive sample size, but you can also do this with larger sample sizes, but then you'll get less legs. But for today, I'm only looking at 2024. And all you need to do is look at the props that have a 100% hit rate that also have a great matchup, and Outlier does it all for you using this opponent rank. So we've pretty much got 4 players to look at here. Jordan Love, Sam Darnold, Jalen Naylor, and Jordan Addison. Taking a look at these, I'm not going to bet on Jalen Naylor because I know when it comes to alternate props, I'm not going to be able to get 10.5 or 15.5. 25 is the minimum I'll be able to get for receiving yards. So if you wanted to, you could jump into these and go a little bit more in depth with your research. But pretty much we saw everything we needed to see on this homepage. We've got Jordan Love to get over 245 passing yards. That's his actual line, which he's hit, but he's only played 1 game this season. He's up against the Vikings, who do allow the 6th most passing yards on the season. So for Jordan Love, I'd honestly probably pass on it. We've only got a 1-game sample size, but I could be tempted at playing this over 205 passing yards. Let's take a look at that. This example, let's just look at over 210. So I'm pretty much looking at 200, but 210 is the closest thing that we can get to it. Actually, there was a 199 in here. My bad. So we know that he's hit this season. Played 1 game, 260 yards. You can look at last year's data, and we can see the 200-yard mark that we're looking at. He hit in 15 out of 19 games, a 79% hit rate, and his matchup is nice today. So for him to get over 200 on Prize Picks, it's at minus 137, so I'm assuming they have something special for him. But for the other books, he's pretty much in the range that we like. So for Jordan Love to get 200 passing yards against a Vikings team that gives up passing yards, it's probably a good play. So I'm going to go ahead and add Jordan Love. Once I've put them all together, I'll show you what it looks like on my sports book. But Jordan Love, alternate passing yards for 200. All right, we got him. Next, we're going to have a look at Sam Darnold. So for Sam Darnold, we're really looking at 175 as his passing yards. He has hit that in all 3 games this season. And in these 3 games, the Vikings did win every single game. So if anything, the game script wasn't there for him to need to throw so much, but he has hit it in all 3. He's up against a Packers team, bottom 10 in terms of passing yards allowed. So I'm not going to overthink this. I'm just going to add all these in because these are relatively safe bets. Sam Darnold, alternate passing yards, 175. Then, who did we have last? I think it was Jordan Addison. So looking at Jordan Addison, probably taking for 25 receiving yards. He's only played 1 game this season. 35 yards in that game. Green Bay, they're bottom 8 in terms of receiving yards allowed, but they're pretty much middle of the pack for receiving yards allowed to wide receivers. So given his one game sample size and the matchup, I probably wouldn't play Jordan Addison in this game. So we've got both quarterbacks, no receivers, and no rushing backs either. All right, so now we're just going to jump into the next game to let you guys know where we're at. So just those two legs alone, we're looking at odds of minus 140. So if we get a couple of these, if we get 5 to 6, we're going to be in real plus money territory. But we're looking at the next game here. It's the Broncos versus the Jets. So filtering by 2024, but we're really looking for where they've got a good matchup. And we've got nothing until we hit Bo Nix rushing yards. So let's take a look at Bo Nix and his rushing yards. So over 19.5. So he's hit in all three games, 35, 25, and 47. The Jets bottom 10 in rushing yards allowed, but the quarterbacks, they're middle of the pack. So probably not too interested. Look, I could be tempted to pay it, to be honest, based on his hit rate. But this Jets team, middle of the pack in terms of rushing yards allowed. Look, Bo Nix probably gets this. But at the same time, if we're going to be strict with the strategy and the criteria that we've set, for this particular example, we're not going to play it. Not looking to force any plays down here. The next one is Breece Hall to get over 39.5 rushing yards. This is minus 500 pretty much. And he's hitting all three. So he's averaging 56, 54, 62, and 54. And the good thing about the Jets here and Breece Hall, we've seen three different game scripts. Or two different games. Yeah, three game scripts, really. So the first one, the Jets were trailing by a lot. They could have abandoned the run. He still got 54 yards. Against Tennessee, somewhat tight. They got the win, 62 yards. And then against the Patriots, the Jets absolutely smashed them. And he got 54 yards. Now, this Broncos team, ninth most rushing yards allowed to running backs. So I do like this for Breece Hall for him to get 40 yards. So I'm going to go ahead and add Breece Hall. All right, scrolling down to see what else we've got. So we've got nothing else with 100% hit rate. So it looks like Breece Hall is the only leg that we're taking in this game. And the cool thing about this strategy is you don't necessarily need to know anything about the sport, to be honest. You just have to be able to read the data and really just look for the green colors. And I'm pretty sure you'll do all right with this type of strategy. We've got the Saints versus the Falcons. We've got the same filters applied. And we're looking at Bijan Robinson over 19.5 receiving yards. The alternate line I'd have to take is 25, so let's keep that in mind. So in 3 games, 43, 25, and 21. The Saints, 8 receiving yards allowed to running back. So we're not running with Bijan on this one. Who else do we have? Kyle Pitts over 19.5 receiving yards. So Kyle Pitts has gone for 26, 20, then 59. The Saints, not third most yards allowed to tight ends this season. So I'm going to jump into that game and see if I can get Kyle Pitts at 20. I have a feeling it might be 25, the lowest I could get him on, but let's fuck around and find out. Yep, so the minimum I can get is 25. So probably not fucking around with Kyle Pitts. I just want to check to see if I do have receptions ticked. All right, so we're not going with his receiving yards because I can't get 20. The lowest I can get is 25. But next, we've got Alvin Kamara over 50.5 rushing yards. So he's been an absolute beast this season. He covered in all three, averaging 95 yards per game. The Falcons, middle of the pack in terms of rushing yards allowed to running backs. They do allow a lot overall, but running backs, they're middle of the pack. Now, I have no doubt in my mind that Alvin Kamara hits 50 rushing yards. But again, we're being strict here, right? We want an excellent matchup and we want 100% hit rate. But yeah, Alvin Kamara gets there for sure. But let's be Derek Carr. Let's be a little bit hesitant around it all. Derek Carr to get 1 rushing yard. So he pretty much has to rush once. Now, this Falcons team does allow the most rushing yards to quarterbacks. This is at minus 165. You're pretty much just taking his over or under if you think about it. Let me see if I can get Derek Carr. No, it's not on here at the moment, what I'm looking at. But I think that could be a good, interesting look. Derek Carr to get 1. Yeah, he does attempt only 1 or 2, but he only really needs to make 1 yard, right, for this to cash. So I think that's interesting, but it's not going to fit our strategy today. So I don't think there's anything in this particular game. Let me double check. Kamara, Derek Carr. Yeah, so there's nothing with 100% hit rate with a great matchup. Let's jump into the next one. We've got the Bengals versus the Panthers. So 100% hit rate with a good matchup. We got Miles Sanders over 15.5 rushing yards. Now, I know I'm not going to be able to get Miles Sanders at 15.5, but let's do it for an example's sake. Bengals, 13th most rushing yards allowed to running backs. So that matchup is not as ideal as I would have liked it to be. And there's nothing else in this game with a 100% hit rate with a good matchup. I lie. Actually, no lies. I did not lie. All right, let's jump into the next one. We've got the Philadelphia Eagles versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And for this one, we've got Baker Mayfield passing touchdowns. And we've got Jalen Hurts passing yards. And we've also got Saquon and his rushing yards. All right, so we've got quite a lot happening in this game right here. Take a look at Baker Mayfield to get one passing touchdown. So this season, he's had a passing touchdown in all 3 games. The Philadelphia team, 9th most touchdowns allowed head-to-head, even though that's good. So he's gotten those passing touchdowns against them in the past. So, yeah, I think Baker Mayfield, as much as I don't like betting this particular prop, in these circumstances, stay true to the strategy here. And the worst thing about it is I don't even have player props available for this game, and this game has the most. I'm going to switch over to Bet365 just to see if I can get some bets down for this particular game. One moment. All right, so I can get it on Bet365. So I've got Baker Mayfield. Now we're going to look at Jalen Hurts passing yards to see where we're at. 175 is a number I'm going to have to settle for. So Hurts hit this in all 3 games. 278, 183, 311. Pretty poor game against the Falcons, but they're good defensively. Tampa Bay, 8th most passing yards allowed this season. So this checks out. So I'm going to add Jalen Hurts for 175. And I cannot fucking Bet365. It's 150 or 200. All right, so I'm not going to add Jalen Hurts, but 175 for this strategy. Next, we've got Saquon and his rushing yards. So 100% hit rate, 59 to 60. I'll probably have to settle for 50 rushing yards for Saquon on this one, but let's take a look. So in 3 games this season, 109, 95, and 147. Tampa Bay, actually middle of the pack in terms of rushing yards allowed to running backs. Very similar to Alvin Kamara. I have no doubt in my mind that he hits this, but I'm looking for the ideal matchups here. Look, we might end up with a plus 100 play here from a handful of legs, but that's okay. All right, let's jump into the next one. We're looking at Steelers versus the Colts. And the first one that's popping up here is Pat Freiermuth. I think he's a tight end. I'm going to look at 25, and then I'll see what type of legs I can get. So he's had 27, 39, and 33. The Colts, 12 in terms of receiving yards allowed to tight ends. So Freiermuth, let me check my books to see if I can get him. So it looks like I can get him, but the lowest I can get him for is 25, which ain't great. What if we looked at his receptions? So he's had 4 receptions in every game, and the Colts allow the 3rd most receptions. So if we were to take him to get 2 receptions or 3 receptions, we might be okay here. So I'm just looking at Freiermuth's receptions, and it looks like I'll take him for 2 receptions. All right, who else do we have in this game? Najee Harris to get 1 receiving yard. No, I'm not going to be able to find that. We've got, there's Pat Freiermuth in his receptions. So you can take him for 2 or 3. He's got 100% hit rate in all of them. I'm actually going to take him for 3. It is better odds. So Pat Freiermuth for 3. And we've got Najee Harris rushing yards. So Najee Harris rushing yards, I think, is one of the straight bets I'm going to be playing anyway. But let's look at a watered down version. We're looking at 49.5. He's hit 70, 69, 70, and the Colts allow the most rushing yards. So that's a really easy pick. To Najee Harris with a lower rushing yard line. And you wouldn't believe it, they don't even have the damn thing available. I'm starting to think, have I made this video a day too early? But today was a day where I had a bit of spare time with no W on. My NFL picks video is going to be tomorrow. So, look, Najee Harris would have been a good play, but I can't get his prop right now. I think they're waiting on the Jaylen Warren news, perhaps. I think that makes sense. But let's check to see if there's nothing else in this game. So I'm going to have to settle with just Freiermuth, but that's okay. We got something. Rams versus the Bears. And in terms of 100% hit rate with a good matchup, we got nothing. On to the next one. We're looking at the Jags versus the Texans. And Nico Collins. Now, I know that he doesn't have any available on my sports books, and that's because he's one of the straight bets I'm looking to run this week. But his props aren't available. There's a few questionable in that team. We've got Travis Etienne. No, Nico Collins again, but that's on his receptions. All right, so we're going to have to pass on the Jacksonville game. Commanders versus Cardinals. That should be a good one for props. 100% hit rate with a great matchup. Nothing meets the criteria for that. Then we've got the Patriots versus the Niners. And we've got Brock Purdy and his passing yards. So I'll probably take him for 200. I know that I can get that as an alternate line. 231, 319, 292. And New England allow the 5th most passing yards to quarterbacks this season. So that's pretty straightforward. So let's take Brock Purdy. All right, guys, I just figured something out. Instead of me jumping between my sports books, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to add them all to my slip on Outlier, and then I'm going to share the link for that in the video description below. It's much easier, and I know you guys in the US probably have better access to all of these props. So I'm just going to flick through them real quick, and then I can just share it with you. Nice and easy, and hopefully you can build something off it, right? You don't have to take every single one. I won't be able to, but I'll take what I can and build some bitch ass parlays from off the back of it. So let's take Freiermuth. Let's add him here. And then we've got Najee Harris. We're passing on him. Najee Harris rushing. Here we go. That's what I'm talking about. All right. Now, Bears is where we're up to next. And there was nothing in that. Jags, Texans. So Nico Collins of lines available on DraftKings. So we'll take him for there. And then we'll jump into the next game. This is actually so much quicker. I don't know what I was doing. We've got Commanders and the Cardinals. Who do we see? 100% hit rate with a great matchup this season. Nothing in this game. Patriots, Niners. We've got Brock Purdy. We've got Juan Jennings. I got him on my fantasy team, and my man's killing it. Yep. Chargers. Good matchup. Who do we see? Rashee Rice to get over 4.5 receptions. Let's take a look at that real quick. So he's hitting all 3 games. Chargers, 4th fewest receptions allowed to wide receivers, though. So we're going to have to pass on that. Worthy would have a similar type of matchup. Nothing in this game. Browns v. Raiders. All right, we've got Deshaun Watson, over 150 passing yards. Let's see what's up. And I'd hate to have a bet on him, but let's see. 169, 186, 196. Raiders, bottom 10 in terms of passing yards allowed to quarterbacks. So, yeah, as much as I don't like betting on this man, it fits the criteria. Let's go safe on Deshaun Watson. And then we got Jerry Jeudy, over 24.5 receiving yards. 25, 73, 27. It'll be tight. And no, that's not good enough for me. We'll pass on Jerry. And then we also have Deshaun Watson rushing yards. Let's check that out. But we need to look at it for quarterbacks. And the Raiders don't allow that many to quarterbacks. So we'll pass on that. But we do have Jerome Ford rushing yards. For him to get 30.5. So he's had 44, 64, 37. Raiders bottom 3 in terms of rushing yards allowed to running back. So Jerome Ford, he gets added to the list. Okay, now we jump into the next game. We're looking at the Bills, Ravens, and got a lot of their wide receivers. So we've got Khalil Shakir. Let's take a look at his. Let's look at this 24.5. The Ravens, bottom 6 in receiving yards allowed to wide receivers. So add Khalil. What else have we got? Justice Hill for 2 receptions. I know that that's a good play because I'm betting on his receptions anyway. Bills, 3rd most receptions allowed. Welcome to the squad, Justice Hill. And then we've got Aguilar. Nelson Aguilar to get 1 reception. And that seems sweaty. He's had 1 reception in every game. I don't think I can fuck around with that. Rashad Bateman. We need him to get 2 receptions. 2-3. Not too bad. Averaging 2.6 receptions. But Buffalo don't allow as many receptions to wide receivers. So we're passing on that. Khalil's receptions. We've already got his receiving yards, so no need to add that in. All right. We're getting somewhere. We've got a lot of legs happening now. Titans, Dolphins. Nothing in this game suits. And then Seahawks, Lions. So in this game, nothing with 100% hit rate has an excellent matchup here. So look, we got 14 legs already. Let me show you. All right, I'll open it in my browser and I'll share it with you. So don't feel like you need to pause the video here or nothing like that. I'm going to share the link for this in the video description anyway, so you can suss these legs out. Now, I think it's going to be impossible to get all of these legs into parlay, given that they only be available on certain books at these lines. But based on what I'm seeing here, we're looking at a pretty juicy play. If you can get on at least half of them, we're talking about plus money. So I'll share the link for this in the video description below. You guys can cook what you can cook, see what you got access to. And I want you to let me know in the comment section, what odds did you get for your parlay? And was there anything else that I may have missed? I think it's a pretty good look. And you saw how easy it was for me to put this together when I wasn't fucking around with so many sports books. It's actually a pretty quick strategy, because the thing about the NFL is there are so many markets, so many players. How are you supposed to know what to bet on? This is a nice little safe parlay strategy that you could use to put it all together and create your own little parlays like that. I wouldn't make this my key strategy on how I'd bet every single day, but for the NFL, with so many markets, so many players, I wouldn't mind putting one of these parlays together every week. Why the hell not? But best of luck if you choose to ride with me. Let me know in the comment section what odds you got based off the legs that I was able to put together. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.